For today, we will need 2 blocks and possibly a strap as well as a blanket if you'd like it. If you have a door space or a wall space in case if you'd like to invert later, that would also be good, but not necessary. And we're going to start today just lying in a giant X shape on your back. And the first thing that I want you to just become aware of as you start to lay on your back in this X shape is I want you to notice the parts of the body that are touching the floor, noticing maybe the head, how that's related to the chin, how that's related to the throat, the fronts of your ribs, the tops of your hip bones. And then become aware of what's happening in the back of the body. So again, the back of the skull, the backs of the shoulder blades, the backs of the hips, the backs of the thighs, the calves, the feet. So one of the things that I noticed most in COVID was that I couldn't breathe. I naturally just, have a very easy capacity to breathe. But one of the things that I became most aware of is how labored my breath became and how hard it was for me to particularly breathe into the back of the body. So I want you to start to, good morning, Laura, start to pay attention to how the body is entering or how the breath is entering into the back of the body. And then we're going to start to enter into our first shape. So go ahead and flex through both of your feet. Internally rotate the thighs so they're parallel. And I want you to widen your left leg out to the left just a little bit. And then widen your right leg out to the right just a little bit. And then you're going to keep your right leg as it is, slide your left leg towards your right leg. Great. And then you're going to reach up through both of your arms and arc them over towards the right as well. And you might grab that right wrist with your left hand. Now here I want everyone to pull all 5 toes on both feet back towards your knees. Lengthen your tailbone down towards your feet and hug your outer shin bones in. And as we're here for the first couple of breaths, I want you to see if you can start to soften that left shoulder down towards the floor. And it almost feels like you're picking up your right low belly and actively turning it towards the left. And as we're here for the next minute or so, letting the backs of the arms rest onto the floor, I want you to see if you can breathe deeply into your left armpit. See if you can breathe deeply into your left ribs. So Jason, slide your left leg all the way over to your right, hug your legs together and pull your toes back towards you. And so as you're lengthening down through the tailbone, some of you might start to feel this nice stretch happening along the left side body in the QL region, so between the ribs and the hips. Some of you might feel stretch happening in the upper intercostal muscles around the armpit. And then I want you to notice if you're gripping around your mouth, around your neck, and see if you can take in just a few more deep, steady breaths. Actively rotating the belly button towards the left, softening the left shoulder, the left hip towards the floor, reaching out through both feet. And you've got 2 more breath cycles here, and you're noticing that maybe you've started to tone the back of your throat and naturally invite your ujjayi in. At the end of your next exhalation, gently release the hands if you're holding them, and then inhale, come back to that giant X shape. Allow the body to just soften and relax and just observe. What do you notice in the right side? What do you notice in the left side? How is the breath working here? And how is the breath working now? And so throughout our practice, the invitation is always to come back to the breath. That's the only thing we're going to pay attention to is just how is the breath working? How can I allow myself to hear my breath, sense my breath, feel my breath as we go through this practice today? And then we're going to go ahead and try the other side. So actively flex through both of your feet. Widen that left leg to the left just a smidge, and then slide your right leg over to meet the left. Arc your arms up and alongside your ears on the floor, and then inchworm them over to the left as far as you want. You might even just pick up the rib cage and make more of a banana crescent shape if you want. And then you might hold that right wrist. And as best as you can, you're pulling all 10 toes up. So you're pressing out through the balls of the feet. You're pulling the pinky toes up towards your knees. You're hugging those outer shin bones in. You're lengthening your tailbone down and seeing if you can keep both sit bones on the back of the body rooted into the floor. And then as you start to breathe in here, you're actively pulling the belly button in and up on the left and rotating it towards the right. And then I want you to see if you can breathe more consciously through that right side body. Do you feel it more in the ribs, maybe creating space as the intercostal muscles gently stretch? Do you feel that line of fascia that goes down the side towards your hip? Do you feel that more in the front of your body, the back of the body? Can you soften any tension around your jaw? Sometimes when something becomes intense, legs are still super active, feet are still super active. We can tense in our jaws. See if you can breathe there. And you've got about another minute or so here. So let's check in with the breath. Can you hear the breath? Can you sense the breath? Is the breath steady? Is the breath consistent? Is the breath smooth? And as you continue to focus on the breath and you continue to just notice the sensations that are happening, I want you to just stay with the breath. So the mind will come up. Your mind will wander, you'll become aware of the sensations, but come back to the breath whenever you notice that happens. Take one more deep inhale here. And then as you exhale, you'll gently release the hands, open up the legs, come back to that center position just for a brief pause, brief moment. From here, gently bend the knees, plant the feet on the floor, hip distance apart. Bring your hands alongside your hips, palms face up, and just take a moment to notice what it feels like to really have the shoulder blades slide away from the ears, tuck onto the back body, and you can press the back of the hands into the floor, press the back of the head into the floor. And then with the feet hip distance apart, really notice what it feels like to have the sole of the foot spread, to allow the thigh bone to root into your pelvis. So you might need to arch your spine just a little bit in the low back. So there is a bit of space in the low back, and the pubic bone and the ASIS are completely parallel to the ceiling. All right, next in-breath, push through the feet, lift through the hips, lift the arms up and over your head behind you. And as you exhale, keep the hands on the floor, slowly roll down the spine bone by bone. Once your butt hits, you'll take a big breath in, lift through the hips once again. And then as you exhale, your hands and your hips will come back to that starting point. And that's one set, and we'll do 3 more on your own. So you'll inhale, push through the feet, lift the hips, lift the hands up and over your head. Keep the hands on the floor, reach through the fingertips as you lower the spine down, bone by bone. As soon as your pelvis hits, take a breath in, lift the hips up and over, lift the hips up. And as you exhale, roll down, lowering the hands and lowering the hips. Great. You've got 2 more sets on your own, and you're just paying attention to the breath. You're inhaling, making the inhale last as long as the movement lasts as long as the inhale. And then you're exhaling and allowing the exhale to last as long as the movement lasts as long as the exhale. Great. Inhale, lift just the hips up. And then you'll exhale, hands and hips come back down. And this is our last set, so we'll listen closely. Inhale, push through the feet, lift the hips, lift the arms up and overhead. As you exhale, roll down through the vertebra bone by bone, slowly lowering your pelvis down, reaching out through the fingers. This time, inhale, push through the feet, lift the hips. As you exhale, just lower the arms, but keep the hips lifted and away from the floor. Once your hands get down to the floor alongside your hips, I want you to see if you can walk those shoulder blades underneath you again. You might choose to just turn the palms to face up and keep the arms unlaced. You might bend the elbows. You might interlace the hands underneath you. But we're going to be here for 2 minutes. And so as we're here, again, the focus is on the breath. So every inhale, I want you to think of your heart lifting straight up to the sky as though you're a marionette and there's a string there. And with every exhale, you ground more into the backs of the arms. Every in-breath, that center of the heart space lifts up. Every exhale, you press back into the back of the skull. Every inhale, the center of the heart lifts, maybe the hips lift a little bit. Every exhale, you root into the feet. And so you'll just continue to notice the inhale is opening up the heart. It's always keeping the front of the body as open, as expansive as it can be. And the exhale is always grounding you. It's rooting you so that you can be that open, so that you can be that expansive. And I want you to continue to notice how the feet are spread. Is the weight even on the inner and the outer edge of the feet? Can you notice what's happening to the breath? Do you still hear the breath? Is it smooth? Is it steady? Are there any bumps or jumps in the road, or is it completely even? And you're just pausing and you're breathing. Maybe lifting the outer hip bones up a little bit with the inhale as you lift the heart space. And then again, hugging in with those inner thighs as you exhale, rooting down through the feet. You've got about 3 more breath cycles here, keeping the breath long and steady. And at the end of your 3rd exhalation, if the hands are clasped, you'll gently unclasp the hands, untuck the shoulders, and lower straight down. And I want you to be still when you lower down. And just notice the impact, notice the effect, notice how the breath is moving, notice how the body is feeling. Nice work. All right, let's go ahead and draw just your right knee into your chest. Interlace your hands at the back of your right thigh. So this is an opportune moment for that strap if you feel like you want a strap, or you can just, not use the strap. But you're just going to hug that right thigh in towards your chest. And if you have the strap, it goes around the ball of your foot. And then you're going to inhale and just send the right leg up towards the sky. And exhale, bend the knee and hug the heel towards your pelvis. So you've just got 4 of these. Inhaling, straightening the leg, reaching the foot up towards the sky. And exhaling, bending the knee, hugging the heel towards the hip, the knee towards the chest. And you've got 3 more of those. And you're working as slowly as possible. So the body actually learns more when you take the time to go through each little transition. Great. And so this next one should be our 5th one. So the next time your right leg is up towards the sky, go ahead and keep it there. I want everyone to bring your awareness to your pelvis and your pubic bone and away from you. So it feels like you arch your low back. And then if you'd like, extend your left leg long. If the left leg goes long, flex through the left foot as much as you are flexing through the right. I want you to see if you can push the back of your left calf and left hamstring into the floor as you reach up through the right heel. Draw the outer right hip away from you, and then notice if you need to soften around the chest or the shoulder blades, and then start to breathe a little bit more deeply. So you're just breathing. That right leg is super active. That left leg is super active. You're breathing. And you're breathing, and you're noticing what you notice. And you're pressing up through that right heel. You're reaching out through the left, and you're trying to keep your hips as square as possible. So pull back on that 4th and 5th toe just a smidge more. Yep, there you go. And you're just going to pause and you're going to breathe. Notice if there's tension around your face and see if you can let that go. Yep. Okay, awesome. Now, some of you will just bring your left hand directly on top of your left thigh, and I want you to push the left thigh straight down and arch your back just a bit so you can feel more of the back of the left leg on the floor. Once you feel that's happened, open your left arm out to the left in line with your shoulder blade. Turn the palm to face up. Now turn your right leg out a bit, and this is going to require work. Without letting your left hip move, you're going to open your right leg as far as it'll go. So without letting the left hip move, you open the right leg as far to the right as it'll go. And so you're pressing out through that right heel. You're pushing down through that left hip. You're rotating your belly button from the right to the left to keep the whole left shoulder blade on the floor. You're pressing the left shoulder blade into the floor. You're pressing the left hand into the floor. And then you're noticing if your face started grimacing, and see if you can let that go and see if you can deepen the breath. And the right kneecap, so that's the leg that's opened out to the side, that's still pulled up. The right heel is still pressing out. And you're just pausing and you're breathing and you're letting that right leg open as much as it can without letting the left hips lift away from the floor. Nice job, guys. You got one more breath cycle here. On your next in-breath, as best as you can, use the strength of your core and legs to bring that right leg back to center. And then you'll gently bend the right knee. If you have the strap, remove the strap, plant the right foot on the floor, then bend the left knee and plant the left foot next to the right. And just take a moment to notice what you notice between the sides. How does the right side feel? How does the left side feel? Are you paying attention to your breath? It's very interesting that the breath is one of those things that we take for granted until we can't do it. And it's a reminder of all the other things in life that we take for granted until we don't have access to them. And so you're just going to take that moment to just notice what's happening here. Awesome. Very gently draw the left knee into your chest. Take a moment to just be here, really pulling that left knee into the chest, feeling the low back round into the floor. If you would like, you'd put the strap across the ball of your left foot. Otherwise, just keep your hands behind the back of the left thigh. And then when you're ready, you'll inhale, start to straighten your left leg, kicking the foot up towards the floor or ceiling rather. And then exhale, bending the knee and drawing the knee into the chest, the heel towards the hip. And you've got 5 of these total. And I do encourage you to work through your full range of motion. And I do encourage you to work through your full breath. So seeing how you can slow down the movement to match the rate of your breath and seeing how you can pace the breath so it matches the rate of the movement. Yeah, good job, guys. Awesome. I think we have one more set after this one. All right, next time your left leg goes up, let's make sure it's at least parallel to or rather perpendicular to the floor. So it's about a 90-degree angle. Start to arch your pelvis a little bit so your pubic bone comes forward like it's falling off a cliff. And then you can stay here or you can extend your right leg long beneath you. If the right leg goes straight, internally rotate that thigh a little bit. Press out through the big toe mound, pull the 4th and 5th toes back. Yep. And then you're going to pause and you're going to breathe and you're reaching up through that left foot, the left heel, especially the left big toe mounds, the left pinky toe mounds. You're pressing out through the right big toe mounds, the right pinky toe mound. And then as best as you can, everyone melt the back of the right hamstring, so the back of the right leg to the floor, the back of the right calf to the floor. And it feels like you really do have to arch your spine just a little bit so the front right hip flexor stays open. Yeah, there you go, Barbara. And then as you're paying attention to this, can you notice what's happening to the breath? Specifically, can you soften the front ribs so that you can breathe into the back ribs, breathe into the lungs that exist in the back of the body just a bit more? And that left leg is super active, the right leg is super active, and you're just breathing and noticing what this feels like. Awesome sauce. From here, let's bring our right hand to the top of our right thigh. And I want you to push that thigh down, and it really feels like you're sticking your butt back to the floor behind you. Once you feel that that's rooted, root down through the right leg, open the right arm out to the right, turn the palm to face up. Make sure the back of the shoulder blade is pressed into the floor, and then externally rotate the left thigh so your heel comes in towards your belly button, your toes point out. And then you open that left leg as far to the left without letting your right hip come off the floor. And so this is sneaky core work, as Erica would call it, because you actually have to pull the belly in on the left side and rotate it towards the right to root the back of the right shoulder into the floor, to keep the right hip rooted, while you externally rotate that left leg and abduct, so abduct the left leg to the left. So the left leg does try to go as far to the left as possible and as close to your ears as possible without letting the right hip move. Awesome sauce. You got 2 more breath cycles here. Rotate the belly just a little bit more, Laura, to the right. Just the belly. Yeah, there you go. On your next in-breath, bring that leg back up to center. Very gently bend the knee, release the strap, and then you'll extend both legs long for a brief momentary pause. And just see what that feels like. And then you're going to make your way onto your abdomen, heads up, 7-up style. So your hands will be stacked on top of each other underneath your forehead. Your big toes can touch or be wide apart. It does not matter. But you're going to be heads up, 7-up style. And as you're here for these last few breaths, I just want you to breathe into your abdomen, noticing the connection of the front ribs to the floor, noticing the connection of the pubic bone to the floor, and noticing the lengthening of the tailbone down the back. So we're going to do in just a moment some things to stabilize the low back. And so I want you to pay attention to what's happening in the front body, how it's connected to the floor, and then how you can breathe into the back body. Awesome sauce. So let's go ahead and activate your feet and activate your legs, and turn both legs so they're parallel to each other. Both tops of feet reach straight back. On your next in-breath, I want you to reach so far back through your tailbone, through your legs, through your toes, that your legs float up and away from the floor. Great. As you inhale, open your legs as wide as they'll go without losing that internal rotation. And then exhale, squeeze your legs back towards each other. And you've got 5 of these. So inhale, slowly open the legs, and exhale, slowly draw them in. Now, as you repeat this, you want to make sure that your tailbone still keeps reaching back through your toes, so your low back stays nice and long. And then you want to make sure that those front ribs are still tacking down into the floor and drawing down towards your pubic bone. Yeah, there you go, Sandy. And so we're doing some stuff to find your happy hamstrings. And the next time your legs come in towards each other, you're going to stay there. Lift up through your inner thighs, reach back through your pinky toes and big toes evenly. And you can keep your head on the floor for this, or you might like to start to press your head into your hands into your head, and start to lift your head away from the floor. And so we're going to be here for about 1.5 minutes. So you're reaching back through the toes, and maybe reaching forward through the sternum, maybe forward through the crown of the head, maybe lifting the head and the arms away from the floor. But the impetus, or the main thing, is paying attention to the low back being long. Roberta, tuck your chin to your chest just a smidge. Yep, and push your head, the center of your forehead, down into your hands into your head, and see if that helps lift without like cranking your neck. Yeah. And so you're going to pause, and you're going to breathe, and you're going to see if you can lift more of the legs away from the floor, and maybe lift more of the chest, away from the floor. And we've got about 4 more breath cycles. And so the head would lift away, the arms would lift away, the elbows would lift away, all the torso would be lifting away from the floor. Legs are active. The end of your next exhalation, slowly soften down, bring a cheek to the mat, and just take a moment to pause and to breathe. Pause and breathe, pause and breathe. Good job. All right. Let's go ahead and bring the other ear to the mat. Yep, and this is just a fake out, but you're going to now bring your head back to center, bring your hands alongside your rib cage, tuck the toes under, and press yourself up to hands and knees. And then just take about 4 or 5 cats and cows once you get there. And again, we've been intentionally trying to lengthen your breath. So you might find that your breath is slower. You might find that the mind's calmer, or you even feel a little bit down regulated in your energy level. And that's all by intention. So You're just noticing that you can move slower through these cats and cows that you might ordinarily do. And after you've done 4 rounds of cats and cows, we're going to find our sad California cows, or not California cows. So then the hands will be directly underneath the shoulders. The arm bones are straight. The hips are directly over the knees. And you're going to let your belly drop to the floor. You're going to let your chest melt through the gates of your arms. And you're going to drop your head super far heavy and down like it's a bowling ball. Yep. And you're going to push the hands super far away. Let the chest melt between the gates of your arms. So it feels like you're, yeah, there you go. Feels like you're really collapsing in the chest. And that's typically not what I would encourage you to do. So Barbara, draw your chest more towards the floor. So it's almost like your shoulder blades, nope, arms stay straight. The shoulder blades start to melt towards the floor, or rather towards each other, but onto your back. Awesome. And so as we're here, with the head being super heavy, the belly being super heavy, the hands pushing into the floor, the arms staying super straight, yep, you're going to start to feel stuff that maybe comes up the backs of the arms. You're going to maybe start to feel stuff that happens in the shoulder blades. Let the shoulder blades kiss each other on the back as the heart melts towards the floor, the belly drops towards the floor, the head drops towards the floor. And with the head being super heavy, it does just help bring the spine back into what Pete Agassiz calls our neutral spine. He calls it static back because we're trying to get back into our neutral curves. So you might choose to stay here for these last 30 seconds, or you might choose to turn the eyes of the elbows forwards and back, keeping everything else the same. So the head still drops, the chin is coming towards the chest, the belly is still dropping up towards the floor, the shoulder blades are still kissing on the back body. And you've got about another 3 to 4 breath cycles, depending upon how you're breathing, maybe moving the eyes of the elbows forward and back externally and internally rotating in the arm bone. Awesome. There you go, Sandy. Yep. Awesome. And then after your next exhalation, let's go ahead and pause from that. Walk your knees, ankles, and shins together. Tuck both sets of toes under. And then start to press yourself back for toe squat. So if you need to tuck the big toes under, by all means do that. If not, no worries. There we go. And for the first minute that we're here, you're just going to take some little wrist circles. So I know a few of you had mentioned that you were having wrist and forearm stuff, so you can do this one way and then the other. Okay. And then you're going to stop that for a moment. Cross your left arm over your right, giving yourself a hug. Maybe you double wrap the arms. And then you've just got 4 of these little breath cycles. So inhaling, elbows lift. And then exhaling, elbows draw down. And you can keep the head static if you'd like. Otherwise, you can inhale, lift the elbows, look towards your belly button. Exhale, draw the elbows down, look towards the tips of your fingers. And you've just got a total of 4. And we're seeing what's happening with the breath. How are you breathing now? How are you feeling the breath enter into the back body, especially if you're rounding in that rounded shape? And after you've done 4, you'll come to stillness. You'll unwind the arms and you'll switch whichever arm is on top. So typically right arm on top, left arm underneath, and then 4 more sets. Inhaling, lifting elbows, exhaling, drawing them down. And the spine can stay still, or you might look towards the belly button as you lift the elbows, and then look towards the fingertips as you lower the elbows. And as best as you can, you're only moving the upper thoracic spine if you're moving the spine at all. So we're not rounding in the mid-back or the low back. Yep. Awesome. And then after you've done 4, our last little distractor while we're here for toe squat, hands will come behind you. You'll interlace them at the fingertips, draw the elbows towards each other, shoulder blades onto the back. And then I want you to pay attention to the front ribs again, closing the front ribs in and down. And you've just got your last 4 to 5 breath cycles here. And you're noticing where you can soften and where you can release and how you can deepen your breath. Awesome. At the end of your next exhalation, you'll gently release your hands. You'll bring your hands to the floor. You'll extend the tops of the feet to the floor. have a happy little temper tantrum if you'd like. And then conversely, you might shift your weight back and lift one end or both knees up and away from the floor. Nice work, guys. Awesome. Okay. So we're going to transition forward now. This would be a great opportunity to put your blocks towards the upper outer corners of your mat. Sandy, you might not need them. And then you might, once you have those placed, I want you to come back to hands and knees and then make your way back to downward facing dog. So hands are shoulder distance apart. Okay. And so we're going to be in down dog for a bit. So I want everyone to press down through the L shape of your hands. I want you to bring all of your awareness now into your pelvis and see if you can stick your pubic bone back behind you like we did on the floor when it felt like you were arching your low back. Keep that. Now bring your awareness to your front ribs and draw your front ribs straight back to your spine. Keep that. Bring your awareness to your shoulder blades, and I want you to draw them onto your back and then push them down and forward into your hands. And then from here, everyone, I want you to feel like you're making a double chin with your throat and your chin, and push the back of your head up towards the sky to lengthen out through the neck. So it's almost like you're drawing your chin to your sternum, and then at the same time lengthening out through your ears and lifting up through the back of your skull. Yeah, okay. And both arms are straight and both kneecaps are pulling up. So Laura, tuck your chin to your chest just a smidge. Yep. Now, as though I had my hand at your occipital ridge, and then I slid my hand a little bit closer towards the top. I want you to push that part away from your pelvis. Yeah. So it's not so much cranking happening in the neck. Okay, and then you're just going to pause and you're going to breathe. And you're again paying attention to the sit bones lifting up and they're widening. The front ribs are pulling back. The shoulder blades are pushing down, and we're finding length in our neck. I think next week I might work on, I call it forward rounding shoulder syndrome, because I've noticed that a lot in posture. So I noticed it in mine, and that's been working on, that's been helping with the breath work. All right, we're moving on. Inhale, lift your right leg up and back. Take a moment to pause here. Lift up through that inner right thigh like we did when we were on our bellies. Push out through the right big toe. As you exhale, step that right foot quietly between your hands. Pause. Some of you will keep your hands on the floor. Some of you will want your blocks. Step your left foot slightly to the left and forward slightly and put it down for warrior one. But we want a super long warrior one, and you're going to pause here. Bend that right knee over the center of your right ankle. Draw the outer right hip back, and then everyone push down into your fingertips until your armpits lift away from the floor. Yep. Now everyone lift the back of your head away from the floor. Yep. Now push down through both feet, squeeze both feet in and bring yourself up for warrior one. Great. When we come to warrior one, everyone, let's take our right hand out of the equation. So bring your right hand to your butt. Keep lifting your left arm up and overhead. Now I want you to all bend forward into that right knee even more. Yep. Push down into the back pinky toe edge and then hug both feet together. Now everyone, see if having that right hand out of the equation, can you soften the front ribs? Reach from your left shoulder blade up to your left arm. Yep. Notice what that does to your neck and your focus. And then everyone, if you can hug both feet together while still staying in that 90-degree angle-ish in that front leg, you'll find a fun stretch happening across the front of your left hip. Awesome. Take 1 to 2 more steady breaths here. The end of your next inhalation, or rather exhalation, you'll inhale, straighten that front leg long. As you exhale, reach out through the left hand, bringing it forward and down towards the floor underneath your left shoulder. Pause. Block would be super helpful here. Keep that right hand on your pelvis. And I want you to turn the palm to face up on that back hand. So the right hand, turn the palm to face up. Yep. Draw the right shoulder blade onto your back body. Yep. Everyone push down into your left hand a lot. Push down into your right big toe a lot and draw that outer right hip back. So Jason, reach the left hand all the way forward and down to the floor. There we go. And then you're going to pause here for a moment. I want you to press into the back of that left foot a lot. And then everyone see if you can send your pubic bone back. Melt your heart to the floor like we had just a few moments ago. Yep. And then lift the back of the head up. Great. Lower the right hand to the floor. Bring your left hand to the back of your pelvis, palm faces up. Now, take a moment to turn your palm to face down on that left hand. Pull your butt back, reach your crown forward, push down into your right hand, and start to stack your left shoulder on top of your right without letting your hips move. Yeah. So we're finding a deeper rotation in the rib cage. Once you've found that, you're going to push down into the right hand a lot. Some of you will reach that left arm up towards the sky. Some of you will hang out there, rotating just through the ribs. Some of you will reach your left arm alongside your left ear, palm faces down. And again, you're trying to push down through the right hand, rotate the right ribs to the left ribs back behind you, while still having that left hip come forward. It's a very wonky version of triangle, but we're focusing on the twist in the rib cage. Yeah, great. You've got 3 more breath cycles here. That left hip is still coming forward. The outer right hip is still going back, and the right leg stays straight as it can be. Yep. Awesome. On your next exhale, lower the left hand to the floor, bend the front knee, plant both palms, step back, downward facing dog, and pause. And then you're just going to pause here. See if you can be still. Notice what you notice between the two sides. So we spent a lot of time opening up the rib cage on one side. We spent some time opening up the legs on one side. Notice what's happening to the breath. Noticing how the weight feels in the hands and in the feet. Nice work, guys. Let's try the other side. Inhale, sweep your left leg up and back. Take a moment to pause here. Lift through the inner left thigh. Reach back through the left foot. Yep, and then exhale, step that left foot quietly between your hands. Opportune moment to put hands on blocks if you'd like. And then you'll step the right foot slightly to the right, put the foot down for warrior 1, and stay in as long of a warrior 1 stance as you can. And then pay attention first to bending into that left knee, pushing from your left sit bone to the center of your left foot, pressing down onto the pinky toe edge of the right foot. And then everyone push into the fingertips so your armpits float up, back of head lifts. Push down into the feet, hug the feet together, and then come up to vertical. Nice stable poses, yeah. So once you're stable, the left hand is going to come out of this shape again. So the back of the left hand comes to the back of your left pelvis. Your right arm is going to reach up for victory, and you're going to bend as far as you can into that front knee and pull that outer left hip back. And so as you're bending into the left knee, it's almost like you're trying to rotate, your right shoulder blade forward, the left shoulder blade back. And by having the left hand on the back of the pelvis, that helps you steer that ship. And then everyone soften the front ribs so they can close down a bit. And you can hug the feet towards each other to find a stretch across the front of your right hip flexor. And then soften your brow, soften your jaw, take some deep breaths. Great, you've got 3 more breath cycles here. Deep bend into the front knee, pressing actively into the back foot. Yep. Great. Next in breath, go ahead and straighten through that left leg. As you exhale, reach forward, out, and down through the right hand until the right hand comes to the floor or block underneath your right shoulder. Pause. With the right hand underneath the right shoulder, push down so much that the right armpit floats up. Now with your spine being that parallel-ish to the floor, I want you to see if you can lift the back of your head into the ceiling. There you go, nice, Roberta. And then everyone press from the left sit bone down to the left big toes. With that left hand on the back, or I want to see if you can draw the left shoulder blade onto the back of the body. Yep, there you go, Sandy. And then double chin the throat, yep. And then lift up through the back of the head, keeping that double chin. Haha, yeah, it's awkward, but it's strengthening the back of the neck. Cool. And you've got about 2 more breath cycles here. Nice, Laura. Laura, draw the outer left hip in just a smidge. Yeah. Very gently, everyone release the left hand to the floor or block. Then you'll replace that with the right hand. And again, with the palm faces down on this side, I want you to traction your butt back, reach your crown forward, push down into the left hand so much that the left armpit rolls up, and then you'll start to stack the right shoulder on top of the left. And if you squeeze the shoulder blades onto the back body, you can rotate the ribs even more, but don't let that right hip stack. See if the right hip can still come forward. And then some of you might start to reach the right arm out. Some of you might reach the right arm alongside the right ear. But again, the left ribs are coming under, the right ribs are stacking on top, the right hip is still coming forward. It's super duper awkward. Yep, and you're trying to find that rotation through the rib cage. So the thoracic spine, it turns out, is intended to be rotating. So we're seeing if we can help it do its job. Nice work, guys. At the end of your next exhale, you'll gently release the right hand to the floor, bend the left knee, plant both palms on the mat. Happily step back to plank pose. Now, some of you will choose to stay here in plank. Some of you will lower to forearm plank, but we're going to be here for a bit. So you're going to push down. And since we've been focusing on this today, I want everyone to push down through the hands until your armpits float up. And then bring your awareness to your pelvis. Stick your butt back just a smidge. It's like 1/2 millimeter. And then from there, soften the front ribs into your back body. So like you're that marionette still, and I've got a string onto the backs of your ribs. I'm pulling your front ribs into your spine up towards the sky. Now from here, everyone double chin. So like draw your chin to your chest just a smidge, but keep your neck long and then push the back of your skull straight up. Yeah. Sternum reaches forward, tailbone reaches back, front ribs soften into the spine. And you're breathing, I hope. That looks really good, Barbara. You're breathing, I hope. Yeah, that looks good too, Laura. That's awesome, guys. Steve, lower your bum just a smidge. Yeah, great. And we've got about 5 more breath cycles here. You can choose to stay for the last 5 breath cycles, or you can lower all the way down onto your abdomen when you've had it, but we're going to meet on our abdomen. So we've got another 20 seconds on the clock, and you can continue to stay here and breathe, or, lower to your belly when you're done. Nice job, guys. And when you're done, you'll lower all the way onto your abdomens. Once you get there, we're going to take a moment to pause. You might bring an ear to the mat and just notice how the body's feeling now, how the breath is working now. And if you brought one ear to the mat, bring the other ear to the mat. Awesome sauce. All right, let's move on. Bring your forehead to the mat. Bring your hands to the back of your head and interlace your fingers. Separate your feet hip distance apart. Activate through the legs and press the toenails down into the floor. Lengthen your tailbone back towards your feet. Draw the front ribs in and back. And then what you'll start to do is you will start to push your head into your hands into your head. Your sternum will start to reach forward, and then your head and your chest will lift lift up and away from the floor, but you'll actively press your feet into the floor. And then if you'd like, you might hug those shoulder blades together on the back as you push your head into your hands into your head, the tops of the feet into the floor. The tailbone keeps lengthening back, the front ribs soften in towards the pelvis. And ironically enough, the more you push your hands into your head into your hands, the more you can lift your chest. And so you're just pausing and you're breathing, and those feet are actively working down into the floor. You're breathing deeply. You're pushing the pinky toes into the floor because they can tend to come away. The legs are still strong and active, and you've got 4 more breath cycles here. You're pausing and you're breathing, and you're pausing and you're breathing. Yep. And after your next exhalation, you'll softly lower to the floor. You'll bring an ear to the mat. You'll take a moment to pause. And then you'll bring the other ear to the mat, and you'll take a moment to pause. And so I think what we're going to pay attention to now is just this idea of letting go. It seems that in order to be fully present in life, we have to let go. We have to fall back into this moment and let go of whatever we thought it should be or could be. And our breath is a great reminder of that because it naturally rises and falls. It lets go and it accepts. That's the only way we can continue to breathe. All right, let's move on. We're going to come up to sit, and we're going to make our way back to a child's pose. But before we do, our next 2 poses after child's pose will be dolphin and then maybe pincha. So if you want a wall space would be great. Otherwise, just go to child's pose and you'll just hang out there for a minute. Yeah, Barbara, that door should work. And so you'll just rest for a moment in child's pose. And you'll just see what this feels like. Just allowing yourself to be still. Awesome. All right. Let's go ahead and bring ourselves up to sit. So if you would like to do dolphin, or if you'd like to do Pinchamayurasana forearm stand, this will be a great opportunity to be at that wall. But in either case, you're going to lower your forearms down to the mat. Make sure they are shoulder distance apart. And you can either take that prayer shape or you can take the number 11. It depends on you. But I want you to widen your elbows just a little bit, or rather draw them in a little bit and then push down into the floor, catch your skin and widen it. And then round through your spine a lot like happy little Halloween cats. From there, tuck your toes under, lift your pelvis high. So Barbara, if you'd like to do dolphin, you might want to turn the other way. And then from there, you'll straighten your legs and lift your pelvis up. And since we've spent a lot of time focusing on our ribs and on our shoulders and on our breath, I want everyone to push down so much through their forearms and elbows that it feels like your armpits float up. And then lift your shoulder blades up and away from the floor just a smidge. And then pay attention to how long your neck is. Slight double chin, press back through the head so it stays long. And you'll just pause and you'll breathe. And we've got about another 20 seconds on the clock. So you'll just pause and you'll breathe. And you're pushing down through the arms, you're lifting up through the hips. And as you're here for these last 3 breath cycles, check in. If there's any part of you that does want to try Pinchamayurasana, you'll then lift one leg up and then maybe kick up to the wall. If you need to take a momentary break before you do that, you can come down and take a little break before going up. Well, that's better, Sandy. Keep pressing down. Yeah. Yeah, buddy man. And then if you have taken dolphin or Pincha Mayurasana, once you are done, you are going to go back to child's pose and you're going to lay there in child's pose and you're just going to pause. You're just going to pause. Great. Lengthen your tailbone up, Sandy. And then from here, you're going to slowly bring your spine up to vertical, sitting on your shin bones, closing your eyes. Stack your hands on top of your lap. Slide the shoulder blades down your back. Let the sternum lift. And then imagine your little elves and you've got little elfin ears. And for some reason, someone is pulling your elfin ears straight up. Notice how that naturally creates that slight double chin. And then you can push the head straight back, lifting the chin parallel-ish to the floor. And you're just pausing and you're breathing. Nice work, guys. Great. You'll gently open your eyes. You'll bring your pelvis to the floor. If you need to sit on a blanket, that would be great. Otherwise, your butt will just come to the floor. We've got 2 seated postures before we start to wind down. So the first one will just be Baddha Konasana. So you'll draw the soles of your feet together, let the knees open and splay like a book. And we're not going to fold forward today. So if you would like to sit up on something, it typically just helps keeping the spine neutral, but you don't necessarily need that. And you're going to hold on to the fronts of the ankles. It feels like your bum is literally behind you. And then you'll pay attention to what's happening to the front ribs. Can they soften down towards the floor and back towards your spine? As you draw the shoulder blades onto your back, they almost thrust your heart forward, and then you're just pulling the legs back towards you. That double chin happens as you lift up through your elfin ears. And then you're just pausing and you're breathing here. And so what we're paying attention to right in this position is this is a setup for our next shape. So you want to pay attention to what's happening in your sacrum. You want to pay attention to how long your spine feels. Yeah. Great. Take your last 2 breath cycles here. The end of your next exhalation, release your hands, bring your hands back behind you, press into the floor, extend your legs in front of you, and draw your legs parallel. So this is a shape that I really dislike this shape, but my senior teacher seems to think that this is a shape we should be doing all the time. So we're gonna get our legs really strong and straight. I want you to pull all 10 toes back to your knees up towards your hips. Your hands can stay here if you'd like, but again, you're gonna make sure that your behind feels like it's behind you. Your front ribs are closing back, and then you're gonna start to hinge forward at your hips, trying to keep one long straight spine. And so some of you will lower your hands alongside your thighs and they'll just stay there. Some of you will have your hands on top of your shins and you'll stay there. Some of you will reach your hands to the tops of your feet and you'll stay there. But the next thing that we're going to pay attention to is how your chin creates that double chin. So it's coming in towards your sternum and you're lifting up through your ears. So what that's creating is what's called Jalandhara Bandha. And with the spine super long like this, we're in what's called Mahamudra. So keep those feet active. The toes are pulling back towards your feet. Yep. And what you're focusing on now again is your breath. So this is one of those shapes that my teacher likes to have us spend like 10 minutes, it feels like, in this shape, just doing different pranayamas. And so you're just focusing on keeping your spine super long. The heart still stays open, but the front ribs soften back. Yeah, nice, Roberta. And then those legs are active, and you're just pausing and you're breathing here. And as best as you can, you're seeing if you can build up your awareness of the breath. Do you feel the breath entering into the upper thoracic spine? Do you feel it filling and swelling around the heart? Do you feel the breath more in the abdomen, more in the low back? Can that spine stay as long as it can be? There's not any rounding. And you've got about 4 to 5 more breaths here, keeping this back body super engaged, super long. And then at the end of your next exhalation, you can start to round forward for Paschimottanasana. So you might find that suddenly you can get a whole heck of a lot deeper into this shape. And you might suddenly find that, oh my gosh, there are the backs of my hamstrings, or there's my low back. So letting the chin drop towards the chest, letting the whole spine round, and notice how this is a very different feel. And as you're here, notice if there is symmetry between the right and the left side. So sometimes when the elbows touch the floor, it can feel like there's more weight in the right elbow versus the left. Sometimes when you're reaching towards your feet, it feels like the right shoulder blade is a little higher than the left, or the left's a little higher than the right. And seeing if there's any way to find symmetry there without forcing anything. Sometimes it feels like the belly on one side touches a thigh a little bit more easily than it does on the other. Nice work, guys. At the end of your next exhalation, you're gently going to release your feet. You're slowly going to walk your hands up to roll your spine up. And then as best as you can, without too much fuss or hubbub, lay down on your back. Hubbub, that's not a word. Holubub? No, that's not it either. Someone's going to have to tell me that later. Hubbub. Okay. And once you find yourself on your back, your legs might be bent, the legs might be straight, but I want you to just reflect. We started here, but what do you notice now? Does it feel good to have the palms face up? Does it feel good to have the palms touch the body? Does it feel good to let the legs be long or bent? And you're just paying attention. How does the right side feel and the left side feel? And as you're here in this breath, and as you're here in this moment of stillness, I want you to check in with your body and see what might feel like the necessary completing poses for you. So I've done this practice a few times, and sometimes it feels like Supta Baddha Konasana and Happy Baby feels super fantastic. Sometimes it feels like going straight up to Shavasana feels nice. Sometimes it feels like a gentle twist might feel nice. So you pay attention to what feels accurate for your body right now. And you do that thing. The power of our breath is that it always tells us, if we listen, what is actually needed. It tells us where we need to soften. It tells us where we need to expand, where we need to open. The challenge, of course, is that we have to follow its guidance. And of course, to follow its guidance, we have to tune into its guidance. So you've got about another minute and a half. So if you've done something that was asymmetrical, you might choose to visit the other side. And then very gently, You are going to come out of whatever shape that you have been in, and we're going to start to set ourselves up for Shavasana. So for today, though, I would like you to roll over and sit up, unless you're already in Shavasana, then you stay there. And we're going to use a blanket to help us breathe a little bit better. So you'll unfold it like so. And then long ways, you're going to fold it into accordion style so it makes 3 folds. Okay, and then the part that's folded and finished is going to come closest to you. So that's going to be more towards the center of your mat. And then you are going to lay down, but I want you to see if you can bring the bottom tips of your shoulder blades onto this bottom part. The other part that's above you on your head, you're going to tuck it up to support your neck. So this part comes underneath the bottom tips of the shoulder blades. And then this other part, you can either fold under, you can roll under, but it'll support the length of your head or the neck. And then once you've got that going on, you can open the arms wherever feels comfortable to you. Notice if it feels good to let the palms face up or the palms face down. And then notice if you'd like to open the legs a little bit so they can flop out. Okay, great. And then we're just going to end by paying attention to a gentle unwinding. So we'll start from the crown of your head. And I want you to imagine that for whatever reason, I've cut a hole in the top of your head. And I'm starting to pour in this liquid that's kind of thick and warm and sticky. And so I'm going to start to pour this liquid into your head. And just like we're filling a picture, the liquid's going to drop all the way down first. So the slow liquid is going to start to fill the soles of the feet. And then this liquid is going to start to fill the ankles. And it's going to start to fill the calves. And it'll slowly start to fill the knees. And then up into the thighs and the hamstrings. And it's slowly filling the pelvis bowl. And slowly filling the abdominal space. Slowly filling through the rib cavity. Slowly through the chest. Now it's up into the collarbones and it's draping down through the arms and slowly filling the palms and the fingertips. And then it's filling the wrists, the forearms, your elbows, the upper arms, back towards the shoulder blades, filling up through the throat, through the jaw, through the skull, and all the way to the crown of the head. And then now for some reason, I'm sealing the hole I cut in your head. And so as this warm liquid is in your body, it's slowly withdrawing or attracting all the ailments in the body. So anywhere there's tightness, anywhere there's pain or injury, sorrow, heartache, all of it is being magnetized, drawn towards that warm liquid that's now filling your body. This amrita is what it's called in Sanskrit. And it's just being drawn to it. It's absorbing it like a sponge. And then very gently, we'll imagine that, again, for some reason, I'm opening channels in your fingertips, cutting little holes. And that liquid is going to start to drain out through the fingertips. And as it drains out of the fingertips, it creates a spaciousness in the head. It creates spaciousness through the skull, through the jaw, through the throat, out through the collarbones and the shoulder blades, through the tops of the arms, the elbows, the forearms, the wrists, the palms, and the fingertips. That's all empty, it's all spacious, it's all clear. We then seal the fingertips back up and bring our awareness to the toes where we open the vessels, the floodgates of the toes. And again, all that warm energy liquid starts to drain out through the feet. And as it drains out through the feet, you notice that the chest becomes lighter. The ribs become lighter. There's space there. The abdomen, and the pelvis, the tops of the thighs, the knees, the calves, the ankles, the soles of the feet, and then all the last bit of that drips out, taking with it anything you don't need. And then again, we seal up the soles of your feet. And then you'll just take about 4 to 5 breaths here, breathing into this presentness, this space, allowing your awareness to rest wherever the breath feels more easily accessible to you. And I'll leave you here for a few moments on your own, and I'll let you know when it's time to come out. Gently return your awareness to your breath. As you come back to your breath, just take a moment to check in. If there's any part of you longing to linger in this shape, by all means, hang out here. When you are ready, you'll allow small, gentle movement to re-enter into your physical form. Those that are in stillness, stay as long as you'd like. Those that are in movement, you'll gradually make your way over to one of your sides and pause there for a few breaths. Those on your sides, gently round your chest a little bit more towards the floor. Press into your top hand and slowly draw your spine up to vertical. When you are vertical, I do encourage you to take the opportunity to sit on a block or a blanket or anything that lets the spine belong. And when you are vertical, first encouragement is to really get your behind you. I can't remember this lady's name, but I took a class with her and I thought that was so fantastic. So get your behind you. And then I want you to pay attention to the front ribs and just see if you can soften them down and back. Draw the shoulder blades onto your back and they feel like they come down, but it also feels like they thrust your heart forward. And then from there, see if you can find length in the throat by just drawing your chin slightly towards your sternum and then pushing the center of the skull straight back. And then you can soften the gaze or close the eyes and you just pay attention to what it feels like. It might feel like there's a bit of work happening, but that's okay. And we'll just complete our practice today with 3 breaths. So you might bring your right hand to rest on the heart, the left hand to rest on the belly. And you'll just take 3 breaths, seeing what that feels like. Our breath is this gift that we have every single moment of every single day that allows us to come back to this moment. And more importantly, it allows us to come back to ourselves. And I think that's kind of the reminder. We are our own gift that we have of every single moment of every single day. If we can just allow ourselves to remember that and to come back to it. So we'll go ahead and complete our practice with a collective breath, followed by a collective Om. Gently bring your hands to heart center, Anjali Mudra. Press the palms into each other. Receive the weight of the thumbs into your sternum and lift your heart towards your hands. Gently exhale all the breath from your mouth. Take a big breath in. Audible breath out. Inhale for Om. Join if you'd like. To that light, to that breath, and to that sound, we bow. Namaste.